I was contacted by Kunisawa, and Kunisawa in Japan asked me if I'd be interested in reviewing their new notebook. I said, sure. They said, sure. I went to the post office at some point to pick up the parcel. I thought I would get a notebook. In fact, I got 26 notebooks. A whole bunch, all kinds of different kinds, hardbacks, softbacks, you name it, they got it. And there is no way I want to do a video on 26 notebooks because I think that would be a little bit too much. So here's the thing, I have tested out all these different little notebooks. I'm going to show them to you when I point the camera down. And I have sort of made a three-way split between notebooks that are fountain pen friendly, okay fountain pen friendly, and not really fountain pen friendly. And I'm going to give you an example of one of each, okay? Because I think otherwise this video will be way too long and not be that interesting to people. So, a very kind thank you to Kunisawa for sending me so many interesting products. That's very generous, very kind. I'm sure this will be very useful to people. Thank you very much. Guys, let's not waste any time. Let's get started and let's get cracking. Okay, so these Kunisawa notebooks, this is a very large item which I can't even really show you off in this camera position, but this is a cardboard folder they make, so they make that kind of product as well. Well, here we have a whole stack. So they have little ring-bound notepads. This is one of my favorites, fairly small, but a little hardback. Works quite nicely. Tiny grid. I think it's 2.5 by 2.5 millimeters, so small. I do like their logo. I do not seek, I find, or their motto, I should say. This is one of the softer notebooks, but I think they officially call this the hard. Yeah, it's not super hard like say a Leuchtturm 1917. These are 5 by 5 millimeter. This is A5 size, so I have a couple of these. I have this, which is a very similar thing, similar size, but this is a completely soft cover. No pockets in the back or anything, just simple, again 5 by 5 millimeter grid. Okay, I've shown you these. I'm just reaching over there. Sorry, it's a lot of stuff here. This says not because these are not fountain pen friendly, so we have these spiral bound, basically A5, and then we have, so this is that soft cover, right? So I'll do a writing sample on one of these two. For the record, this is called the Ring Note A5 5 millimeter. It's 80 pages. I don't really have a gram per square meter because I couldn't find it anywhere, but it can't be an awful lot because it's fairly thin paper. It's not Tomoe River, just for those of you who are wondering. So this one will be about $13.50 US. There's the Slim Note, also 5 millimeter. This one would be about $11 US. So that's the not pile, not very fountain pen friendly. Then we have the moderate fountain pen friendly. So these are my original notes on these notebooks. This is a bit of a Ziza's work. So this is a small ring-bound pad. So I think they call this the Pocket Note. This would be $6.75 US, 50 pages, 5 millimeter grid, and this is 145 by 19 millimeters. Should you wonder, I also like this size quite a lot. This is the soft 120 by 210 millimeters, so it's not quite A5 like this. Floppy cover, 5 by 5 millimeter grid, quite nice. And then here you have that, what they call the hard. And this one, so the soft would be $22.50 US, and the hard would be $27 approximately, right? Because these are prices converted from yen. This is 192 pages, so this is actually quite a lot. Same as this, 192 pages, 5 by 5 millimeter grid. This is A5, and this is, well, less, as I said. This is 120 by 210 millimeters. And then here I have the stack that was actually quite fountain pen friendly. I kind of like these. Sorry, I'm recovering from a bit of a cold. Take a sip of water there. Memory, they call this the memory. No, sorry, they call this the memory. which is an A7 size pad, 80 pages, 2.5 by 2.5 millimeter grid, and that really is tiny grid. And then there is this, which is kind of the same thing, same size, A7, same number of pages, 80 pages, but blank. And these are sticky notes, so you can tear these off and stick them to something. Now I have found, this is one of them, they don't really stick too much. I mean, basically it just falls off no matter what it is. So I'm not an enormous fan of that, to be honest. But that works. And then there's this, as I said, this is a format that I really quite like. And they call this the Smart Note. These are about $9. Sorry, these two are $8. About $8. This is about $9. This has 40 pages, 2.5 millimeter grid again. And this is 95 by 167 millimeters. But this has a pretty hard cover, which I quite like because it's fairly thin, easily fits into the inner pocket of a coat, for example, and nice hardback, which I think is always nice. I like hardbacks. Okay, now I wanted to show you some of this paper. I am going to take this out. This is one of the ring-bound A5 pads, or notebooks, I should say, that I have worked on before. Paper is not perforated. This is actually what I'm using for these reviews, pros and cons to everything, etc. Let's do some writing. Okay, let me just take out the pens here so that I can line them up. We have this, and then we have a broad, and we have a double broad. Shouldn't you have done this before you started filming? Probably, but in these videos it's entirely what you see is what you get. Very little editing. Okay, we're going to do some writing. This I found not to be very friendly fountain pen. Sorry, not very fountain pen friendly paper. Fine nib. Ink is Waterman Havana Brown. And to save time, because I have to do 3 of these, I'm just going to write the Quick Brown Fox today. Almost Paragon, for those of you who need to know. Visconti Opera Elements. The ink is Waterman Blue Black. Medium nib, then I have a broad nib. This is a custom pen review. At the time this video goes up, the review of this pen should be up. It's made by Pen Pre-K on Instagram. It's a micarta pen in a broad nib in this case. And the ink is Waterman Green. Here we have a double broad. This is Visconti Turquoise in a Konit King size. And this is kind of where the pain starts, when you get to the wetter, broader nibs. And for the record, Kunisawa does say that their paper is supposed to be fountain pen friendly, and I think, as you can see here, I'll zoom in just a second, it's not always. Classic Pens Elm1 with Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red, with an architect grind by Salmon of the Toronto Pen Company. I thought it would be fun to throw in something like this. And then for the actual super broad stuff, this is a Nakahara Crosspoint on a Classic Pens LB5. And this, I'm just gonna, I sort of want to capitalize on the broadness of this nib here. So we have that. And then the final thing I wanted to do was with this Armando Simoni Club. This is the same ink, Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red. Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra. This is their Magic Flex Nib. So ink is, of course, B.R.E. brown. I'm not going for beautiful calligraphy here. I'm just trying to do some flex writing. Okay? And as I said, we have 2 more of these to go. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So here you have it. How is it? Well, let me try to zoom in a little bit. I think we'll agree that there is a bit of feathering on this double broad writing as the writing gets broader. It's not terrible, but you see it here too. Wet, flexy writing. You do get some feathering. Have I seen worse? Absolutely. Is this fountain pen friendly paper? Meh. I'm not convinced. I've seen better. I've also seen worse. There definitely is bleed through in the wetter nibs. So this was, as I said, some of the Kunisawa paper that is not extremely fountain pen friendly. Now let's look at some of this paper that is moderately fountain pen friendly. Excuse me as I leaf through this ring bound, we call that spiral bound little notepad. Tiny pad, we're just going to do some quick writing. So here again we have fine, Havana brown, waterman. And to save space, in this case it's only going to be the quick brown. Sorry. It's not like I have 1100 other videos in which you can see me write the whole sentence, so don't worry too much. This was the waterman blue black. I've already gone over the pens, I'm not going to do it again. Don't worry, I'm not crotchety, I'm just trying to save time. Okay, that was the waterman green. Visconti turquoise in a double broad nib. The architect with corn poppy. The Crosspoint. This seems to be very absorbent paper because I've used corn poppy red on other paper and it doesn't look like this. So this paper really seems to suck in the ink for some reason. It's fascinating. Horrid handwriting. I'm sorry, I'm reaching around a tripod. It's, again, not my best flex writing. I'm not going for calligraphy. It's not a calligraphy course. Just doing this. Now, if we hold this up close to the camera, I have the feeling there is less feathering here. There's still a little bit, and if you want to, I can zoom in, of course. But I have the feeling it is not as bad as on the other paper, but again, by all means, it's not perfect. So this was moderately fountain pen friendly. Let me just flip the page. I have the feeling this is also a little less bleed through than on the other page. So there is that, you do see it there. But to be fair, that was a lot of ink, right? So I wouldn't really count that as honest, fair use of a notepad. Okay, and then finally, let's do it on this tiny pad, because that of course would be the most useless way to do it, and I love doing it in the hardest way possible, so she said, let's do this on the tiny pad. So the waterman Havana, I'm surprised I can actually write 3 words on this with my giant handwriting. The medium nib and the waterman blue black. The broad nib with the waterman green. Double broad with the Visconti turquoise. The architect grind with Mont Blanc corn poppy. I think I just actually managed to mix that with the blue ink or the turquoise ink that was not yet dry. The Crosspoint. I'm really surprised I've managed to fit this onto one page, and I'm rather proud of myself for this uncharacteristic display of coordination. And then we had the Flex There you go. So, what do we learn from this? Good question. Glad you asked. I have the feeling there is still some feathering in the turquoise, but I also have the feeling that it is a little less pronounced than it was in the first one, but it's still there. So as to this paper being fountain pen friendly, I'm just not sure. There's definitely some bleed through in the double broad writing there. It's a little bit, but it's there. So, in all, what do I think? And I'm just going to give you my opinion with the camera facing down, if you don't mind. I'll put this in for visual appeal, okay? What do I think of the Kunisawa notebooks? Great notebooks if you use ballpoints. If you use fountain pens, it depends on what nibs you use. If you use really broad nibs, the paper is going to be challenged. On the other hand, if you focus on the fines, I didn't do extra fine, but I mean clearly if the fine works, the extra fine works as well. I really see no issue with the fine writing on any of the paper, including the paper that I have deemed not fountain pen friendly. So even that paper seemed to work well, seemed to do well on the, I'm just grabbing it here, this was the not so fountain pen friendly. Even this paper fares pretty well with fine writing. So in that regard, I don't really think it's terrible paper. I do think it is not as fountain pen friendly as I would like. But, you know, it's not Tomoe River and it's not advertised as Tomoe River. It's just sort of the next generation cool Japanese writing paper, etc. Sorry. Nice. Interesting. What I really like is that you have so many different options. You like a little notebook, fairly flat, hardback, they've got it. You like something a little bigger, more pages, maybe a floppier cover, they've got it, and it comes with a bookmark. So that's not that bad. They have the little hardbacks, they have the tiny pads like this, which I think are great for keeping in a bag, keeping in a car. I'm very sorry. I have to take some water. So you have these options, bigger, smaller, etc. I think it's really quite nice. The paper is not perfect. The notebooks are not necessarily cheap, right? Because some of these hardbacks, $27, etc. It's not very cheap. Then again, it's 192 pages, and if you stick to medium or fine nibs, you're probably okay. But that's just be realistic about what to expect. I think I've given you fair warning. I don't think it's bad at all. It's just not perfect fountain pen friendly paper. As long as you realize that, you'll probably be fine. And then again, what notebooks are. Leuchtturm 1917 can feather, Moleskine can definitely feather. Unfortunately, this is the way it is. If you really don't want that, you'll have to get some sort of Tomoe River notebook, which will never feather and will never bleed through. But you're probably also going to spend a lot more than the $20, $30. Having said that, there you have it. Interesting paper. The final question, where do you get it? Well, almost nowhere. Milligram in Australia has it. That's all I know. So there aren't a dozen of options to get this paper, but maybe if you Google around a little bit, you'll be able to find someone closer to you. I just know of Milligram. So there is that. Guys, I hope this was useful. Again, a kind thank you to Kunisawa. It's incredibly generous to send me all these notebooks, and I do think they have interesting potential. I mean, nice eye for detail, even these sort of gilded edges of the pages. They look classy, and I do really like that. So there you have it. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye-bye. Bye!